in this demo session, we would be going through all this options, how to create asynchronous resource terminal, and how to view asynchronous resource terminal window, and how to release the asynchronous resource terminal once the tracing is done from the developer point, and enabling and disabling the terminal, asynchronous resource terminal, and various trace options when you while you're using asynchronous resource, and various options like icons or the trace commands within the terminal window, asynchronous terminal window. So these are the options we are going to see today in today's session. So without any further delay, I would bring up zTPFGI for showing you the demo. So currently I'm connected to a TPF system. So let me disconnect for a second so that you can see the difference. So when you're not connected to a system, to any of the test lab, so this is how the zTPFGI looks like. So primarily, let us focus on the ribbon menu at the top. So right now I have the home, source, page layout, message tab, analyze, view, and add-ins. Let me click on the green button at the top left, which brings up the list of available systems. So I'm going to select one of our test system here and then click OK. So you will see the difference now. There would be one more tab enabled here. Once the system is connected in zTPFGI, so you would see one more tab is enabled here called System tab. So under the System tab, you would see an option called Asynchronous Resources. So under this options, you would see the trace terminals, asynchronous trace terminal. So you see a small drop down here. When I click on it, you see different options. Although these are configurable, so you might see different options at your organization level. So as if you have like any requirement to add any other option, so if you give us a requirement, we can keep adding them at your organization. So this is our internal configurations, what we have. So I'm going to show you a couple of options here, but the procedure would be the same at your organization. Okay, so the first option is capture messages from my PC, IP capture, capture message from my PC, right click on VM async file at the program level, so at the terminal level. So we have a couple of options here. So let us quickly see at the program level. Say for example, you know that there's a message coming up from the external system to a TPF system, and you want to trap the message for a particular program. If that message is being activated when the message is coming, only in that instance your ECB will be stopped for the developer to trace. So I would select the option called PGM. It says capture entry to a program. I will click on it, and it gives a small window box where we can enter a program. So I'm just entering a demo program here, APE4, and I would click OK. And you see the terminal here in my screen, and let me drag it so that you can see the. So if you see the header, it says PGM1 capture ECB that enters APE4 program, and the status it says ready. So now any program coming into this system, VP-zTPF9, which would activate this APE4, then the ECB would be captured and it would be stopped at this for us to continue with the tracing. So now having this ready, so this is the asynchronous terminal. That is what, going back to my presentation for a second. So now we have seen the first point, how to create asynchronous resource terminal. Now, the second one is viewing the asynchronous resource terminal window. So before I trigger the entry, for some reason, okay, say for example, you close this. And then how to bring it up? The settings are still active. So just wanted to bring it up again to see the same setting what you have done. You go to the System tab again, and here you see active resource. When you click on it, you see the list of terminals, and the one which we set it up just few seconds back is PGM1. When I click on that, I would get it back. Okay. So now having this, what I would do, I would go to my external system, and then I will simulate a message which would stop in my zTPFGI. I'm triggering the entry, and let me go to the zTPFGI back. And if you see here, the ECB is stopped for me to continue with the trace. And now, in this window, you have many other tabs, just like how you're doing normal tracing, macro trace, graphical, EBW, EBX, level tab, user system, macro trace back, heap, record hold, auto, and FP registers, floating point registers. And you also have the trace commands at the bottom of the screen. I'm just mouse overing it so that you can take a look. So one can use either this buttons to trace, or in the ribbon menu under the trace tab, you have the trace icons. So any of these options can be used as per the convenience. So now if we see, we have trapped the message, and now if you want to trace, the developer can have his or her settings. If I see here, I have all programs, and I have the default setting as no macros. Now when I do run to trace, let me click on run to trace and see what happens. So it has left the message. It has sent the message back to the terminal. I mean, from wherever the input came, the response would have gone back to that. The reason is I did not have the trace settings. I said all programs, but I did not say which macros I want to trace. So that's the reason it was left. So going back again and then fire the entry one more time. Before that, I just want to show you one thing. Once the message is left, you would see the status as disabled. And then once again, if you want to proceed again with the same transaction, we have to make sure that is in the ready state. Only then the message would be captured for tracing. To make it ready, what we have to do a right click on the terminal and say enable. And now if you see the difference at the header, it says ready. So we are good to go and fire the transaction. Going back to zTPFGI. Yes, the message is trapped for me. And now let me change the settings to all macros. So now I have the settings as I want to trace all programs and all macros. Now see the difference comparatively to the earlier thing. Now when I do run to trace, click on run to trace, you will be able to trace now at the macro level. And this trace options remain same. You can use instruction step count, exit ECB, exit all ECBs, run no trace. All this remains same as a normal macro trace. So let me click on run or trace, and now I'll show you the other option. And once we are done with the tracing, we have to make sure this will not make the system to have overburden, you know. So when we have everything as enabled, so the system will be keep on checking for every message coming in. Is this a message we want to trap? Is this a message we want to trap? It keeps checking. So then to release all or the release active. So once we have released, and once we will not have the PGM1. Asynchronous Resource Terminal, viewing the Asynchronous Resource Terminal window, and how to release the Asynchronous Resource Terminal. once we are done with the tracing, right? And I'll just talk one more time about the enabling and disabling the asynchronous resource terminal shortly. So proceeding with the other option. So I will proceed with capture message from my PC, okay? And for this, I'm going to use an internal application developed by TSI. So this application will execute an entry and send an entry to this lab, okay? So I have selected the system to which I'm connected to, and then I'm just going to give a sample entry, zsys, and let me click on send. And if you see, the message is captured now in my zTPFGI. And again, as I explained, by default, it would have no macros, and the developer can choose which macros they want to trace, whether all macros or selected macros. When you click on selected macros, this is the window you get, whether enter just the enter macros or just the file macros. So these are the settings. Let me quickly go to all macros for a second. Yes. So now I have used the option IPC. If you see the header of this window, it says IPC1, capture messages from my IP address. And going back to the trace tab at the top, and then I can use run to trace. And if you want to do instruction step at that particular object level, you can also do the instruction step. And as I explained earlier, you can use the options, the trace options, even at the bottom, what you have. Let me use the options at the bottom in this window. And I would use run or trace to let it go. And now the status is disabled. Once disabled, if you want to do it again, or if you want to capture again, we would be doing enabled, and the status gets changed to ready. And while having ready, say for example, I have decided that I don't want to trace anymore. And what I would do is I would do release active. Let me show you what happens release active. When I do release active, the trace terminal would be released. And if you see here, there are two ways of releasing it. So you can do a right click on the terminal. Let me set it up again, and I can show you the difference. You can release from the right click from the terminal, or let me drag it down and going back to the system tab and clicking on drop down asynchronous resource, and you also have an option to release from the drop down. So there might be a question, what is the difference between release active and release all? The difference is you can set the asynchronous, multiple asynchronous settings. Say for example, right now I have IPC1 which says, okay, any message coming from this IP, capture that message. And I can also have multiple asynchronous messages. And say for example, I want to capture a message which would trigger the program APE4. So right now I have two asynchronous terminals. So we can trace in parallel both. So the only difference is, like, if you want to trace this, all we have to do is we have to click on this, focus on this, and then go to the trace tab and then hit on run to trace or F10. So then this message would be captured. Or if you want to trace this message, you have to highlight this terminal window, and then you can start tracing. And that is the reason you have release all. When you say release all the terminals, whatever is there or set up for the asynchronous trace, everything will be released in one go. And what is meant by release active? Say for example, one message is done, and that would be changed to disabled. And then when you say release active, the only one which is only which is in active, only that would be released, not the disabled one. That's the difference. Release all. And we also discussed about the trace options, like once the message is trapped, whether we want all macros or just a specific group of macros, that is what setting trace options once the message is trapped. And parts of asynchronous resource terminal window. Going back to GI. You have different options here, like trace command and df insight. Those are the options, and also trace options like which macros you want to trace. So whatever we see on the trace tab in the ribbon menu, all those options are available here too. I just clicked on the bottom in the trace window, in the asynchronous terminal window. So these are the options you click on. Okay, and I'm just going to show you. So far we have seen the macro trace, how to trap the message and then trace at the macro level. Let me quickly show you how to trace at the source level. So for demonstration purpose, I will quickly use an option, add SO to view. This option will bring the program which is online loaded in the system. And I will set up a trace, source view trace in source view. So now the program APE4A1 is set up for asynchronous trace, source view trace. And now going to system tab, asynchronous resource, and I would say I want to trace APE4. Click OK. And now I go to other application to fire the entry. And now if you see, having the program in the source view trace and also having the asynchronous resource, asynchronous option as set up for the program, now the control has come to the program. And now when the control comes to a program, you would see a new tab called debug, under which you see the trace of source view execution options: run, run to cursor, branch to cursor, step into, step through, step out, exit ECB and exit all ECBs, run no trace. So I'm clicking on step into, and when you hit run, the message would be processed, or it would be sent back to from where it has come. And also you have an option active ECB here. If you want to see at the registers, data levels, so this is the option we can click on while we are on the source view. Any questions?
If you are trapping a program that's very active, how can you see your entry, or will it trap everybody going through that program?
Yeah, so if you who is executing the entry, so the first entry whichever comes into the system, that would be trapped. So okay. There would be another option if you want to be sure that you want to trap only the message which is coming for you. So probably you can use the option, combinational option, like using line item.
Okay. And is there a way to see it, or do you have to
also
go to
with the program? So that way. Yes, so you have to go here to asynchronous resource. And then, so we don't have here, so you would have an option called program and also with the specific terminal address. So that would be a combinational if you want to use that.
Okay, so if you have one and you want to see if it's the right one, do you have to go to like the level 0 block and just see if it's what you were looking for? Like bring up the active ECB? Okay, and how do you let it go if it's not yours?
So as I explained, so if you want to let it go, you would click on this asynchronous resource, and once you realize that doesn't belong to you, you can use release all or release active.
Okay, and will that allow it to complete?
Yes, that message would go off, yeah. And then you have to re-enable it. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah, hi, Naveen.
Hi, Jim.
My question is, what happens if there are two GI users tapping the same program, and if someone is triggering, on what basis or to which user the program is getting tapped for the entry?
Yeah, once, say for example, you have set up a program in the system, and so that trace is for your session.
Hi, Jivan. Praveen here. If there are two users setting up for the same program, it's like based on the first request, we will share the control. For example, if you set first, then you will get the trace first.
Okay.
Actually, that's why if there is anything specific data you have, we can configure few other asynchronous resources as well. That will help you to trap your own ECB. For example, one case is terminal line data. If you have any other specific business case where you're expecting some data on particular ECB area or particular core address, then we can able to configure that one in asynchronous resource so that you can configure or trap your own application or program.
Okay.
Thanks,
I think my other question is, yes, my other question is, say for example, if there are 2-3 entries which is going to trap for the segment, so will it process one by one if the first trap will complete and then the second entry will getting trapped? Will it be in a waitlist mode to follow each and every entry in the same program to be trapped?
No, once the rule is activated, then it will not be listening for the other entries. Till you release it and then re-enable, it will not be listening.
Say for example, the APE4, you have trapped it, right?
Right.
So,
right.
So there are 2-3 users who are hitting the entry for APE4. So you will get the first one who is hitting first, right? So will the second and third users entry will be in a waitlist mode to enter APE4?
And it will not be trapping. It will not be trapping the second users and the third users because your rule is already satisfied and now you are in the tracing. So it will not trap the user 2 and user 3's entry until you release this user 1 and then again re-enable it. At that point, it would trap.
Oh, is it?
If they're still executing it. No, it will not be in the waiting list. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay, because why I'm asking is I think I have tried something back, sometime back, setting a trace on a segment, and I'm receiving a lot of controls to that segment which I have trapped from a different entries. I think I'm not sure what is the logic behind, so that's why I'm asking. Say for an example, I have trapped an end transaction program. Right, so wherever the end transaction happens in the system, so I'll be trapped to that entry.
Yeah,
for a different PNRs, I'm saying. So I can see a different PNRs in the AAA.
At the same time while you're tracing?
No, after the completion of everyone, each every PNR.
Yeah, so we have to make sure to release all. So if you have the option active, so you would be capturing
one by one, right?
Right. So if you're tracing one, as long as you're in the tracing, that's okay. So the next message will not be trapped. And if you released one, I mean, you have let this message go. You have let this message go, and you still have the rule active. It is possible if someone fires the entry, you will still capture it, and then you have to let it go. Then someone fires the entry, you will still capture it. So until you release all, or the release option, you release that option, you'll be still capturing it. As long as you are not in the trace, but you still have the chain active, you'll capture it. Yeah, I'll work with you, Jeevan, so I can help you on that, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining this webinar session. And you can always get in touch with our customer support executives in your respective places, or also you can drop in an email to productsinfo@tpfsoftware.com. We do have webinars planned on every second Wednesday of every month. Please do come back. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.